a great deal has changed. You're looking at very small changes to hatches and things of that nature. One of the biggest changes for me is the fact that they've removed those bulletproof bars that were just about everywhere, and that's something that's it's a real nice to see. But in terms of sites, it kind of plays out very similarly. Open area is a little bit more viable now, and that's a site that we've seen played a couple of times. The one game that we did get to see on this map was the Furia game last week, and for my money, it wasn't a very competitive game. It was a 7-2 Furia. They'd clearly, were very happy and comfortable to come to a new map. But now we're getting two teams that we're expecting a fairly competitive game out of matchup. We could be about to see something quite different.
You want to know a fun fact, Ollie?
Hit me. This is like a little pattern demo. Was trying to hit me with some fun facts.
I wonder whose fact is going to be more fun. Bank got originally taken out of the map pool right as I started casting Rainbow Six. So this is the first time I will have ever casted this map.
Well, welcome.
Thank you.
I'm happy to take that. I'm happy to take that deposit, and we'll run with it. We'll see if we can open you an account for the bank.
You know what? I'm already straight up disappointed because from what I remember of this map, it was all Monty back in the day. Although I suppose it's the wrong site. It's the wrong site for Monty. That was always the basement, right?
It is the wrong site. And that's something that I brought up last week, is that Bank is one of my favourite maps, and I was gutted when it got removed because it forced that good old-fashioned siege where you had a Monty, you had a real pocket strat that you were going to try and run with. And that was one of the things that was really attractive and appealing to the map about. I just really liked that. So, yeah, I agree. I think, you could go a lot worse than bring a Monty on this map. But obviously, we're dealing with the top floor this time. So it's really all about having that sort of dominating repel presence. Another key change is that the car garage is no longer a factor. Usually you could climb the ladder to the right of Neskin there and really get some nice long lines of sight through. The tops of the windows inside the main lobby have been covered up. So they're the kind of changes that you're keeping your eye out for here. It is nothing too significant other than the majority of those windows have been covered. You can see that one does still remain, so you can open up that really long line of sight onto the top of Kanto.
Top of Kanto. That's an old call out as well.
I mean, it's an old map.
It is a very old map. What I was going to say is MIBR also bringing 2 anchors, which is something that I think is worth noting. Just going back to the conversation that we were having leading into this map about whether this was going to be very plant-based. The fact that they brought both an Echo and a Smoke, I think is going to make it even harder for a team like Team 1 to be able to get in there and actually play that objective-focused game, because you're going to have at least 2 players with that late-round denial present on the site.
And Bank's a plant-focused map, right? There's not a lot of time for the attackers to really get everything done that they need to do. It's a big map. You've got to spend time on the rappel. There's things that you need to open. There's a utility exchange that often has to take place from afar. So all of a sudden, it can make that quite a pressurizing situation. Raps has got himself a nice Valkyrie camera there, and he's able to gather a bit of intel. He knows that someone's likely going to be coming up those main stairs now. Global shield placed on the desk is just giving him a little bit of something to peek from. Going to expend the Toxic Babe canister there relatively early, but still nothing to worry about.
Oh, Felipe. Oh, okay. I was going to say he was perfectly lined up to be getting that shot, but Neskin on there a little bit faster. Now he's just preparing to take the step. Does he actually know? Again, another nice shot from Lagonis. Can't quite get the one at the top of the stairs, and so that control is retained by MIBR.
MIBR still not in a bad position here. They've got 35 seconds left. Files has now moved in to play the shield. He does have a C4 in pocket. But this has been a very flat take from Team 1 so far. They've essentially tried to rush up main stairs and rush up Spiral. And neither of those options are really presenting them with any significant way to get into the site. It's going to be a bloody gunfight as 15 seconds ticks on by. There's live ping information, but Fowls, he whiffs a couple of his shots. Now concerned that he could be getting flanked through Janitor, and the call-outs are perfect. He's going to pick Alamau up. Lagonis, he's able to move on through, but with only 2 seconds left and a 1 versus 1, there is not going to be enough time. MIBR are going to take round 1.
Yeah, that was a very, very strange round from Team One, if I'm totally honest, especially towards the end there, where you just had players walking down corridors, walking up the top of main stairs, not actually checking any of those angles, any of those corners, and you've still got defenders who are remaining behind deployable shields, not 1, but 2 as well. So Team One hadn't put in all of this effort to actually remove the utility that needed to be taken off the map. They just kind of tried to push. A lot of their kills got traded out, so they weren't getting all that much value when they were making their move. And then what were they going to do? Just hope that they got into the site and actually plant? That simply wasn't going to happen, especially with everything still up, with those Toxic Babe canisters, with those the yokai drones, with the shields, whatever it was stopping them from getting there, there was a lot of it working against them.
A strange push, I think, from Team One, as you mentioned it. Just never really had any significant plan. Walking up those spiral stairs is not an attack. It's not an attack. It's not a plan. It's weird to me that MIBR aren't really going down into the basement. We can look to the bans for an answer as to maybe why. Cade being removed and Hibana, remaining in play is going to make the hatches very easy to get opened. We've got Maverick as well, so you can opt to use that and the grenades. There's really so many options to get those hatches open. We maybe don't see too much play in and around that basement. But for MIBR, it doesn't look really like it's too concerning. They've been able to get the Valkyrie through the banning phase. And I think that that's a really big thing for them here. It's very seldom that you get to see Valk available on a map such as Bank. There is just so many places that you can hide those Valkyrie cameras. And there's a lot of information to be gained. It can make it very difficult and very trying as an attacker to ever really be somewhere without being known and exposed. So I think already straight off the bat, MIBR are going to be playing into those advantages. And it's really going to be on Team One to start formulating some plans here.
It was definitely a big concern that I had when I saw that MIBR were able to bring in the Valkyrie, because you didn't even have Team One bringing along IQ, who has herself just received a buff essentially on her gadget. Now obviously I understand why they might not want to bring her if there are other operators that they deem to be more valuable, but given that this is the region that is known for their play of Consulate and they don't have a Consulate to play on anymore, you would have assumed that maybe they would be a bit more diligent about not letting Valkyrie be such a prominent factor working against them.
Again, a bit of a slower start here as Redux going to collect himself a kill onto Neskin. Again, this information that MIBR have at their fingertips is just proving too valuable. A C4 there that lands just outside of the breach into CEO. Essentially a freebie. Neskin down, soft destruction gone with it. And Team One are instead going to try and focus just directly onto the site. Gunfight ensues as Lagonis tries to push his way through, and with the accompaniment of Levy, he will be successful. They now can potentially try to get a plant down as Alamau picks one up onto Fowls. Raps and Lukid left with everything yet to do. KDS takes down Raps, and it is all down to Lukid. Yokai drones are going to prove of no value here. He has to try and make that rotation, but I mean, he was 4 versus 1. He was always going to get caught out there. Levy swings on in, makes his way, collects that final kill. A very explosive round from Team One.
I think the really important thing for me in that round for Team One is the fact that they weren't getting traded. That was one of the huge problems back in round number 1. Every time they got a kill and they tried to move up and they tried to take space, it would get traded. But in this round, that didn't happen. We saw a number of kills for this team come in at the same time, which meant that there was no real response from MIBR, regardless of how much utility they had left in pocket at the time. Yeah, the C4 did a great job by getting a kill onto Neskin, and that was probably the only real benefit that MIBR gained from playing that more roam-heavy defensive style rather than the anchor-heavy defensive style of the first round. And I did actually, I'll be honest, I had a concern that Team One were maybe not going to be able to deal with that roam enough. It's such a big map. Neskin getting caught out, it suggested to me maybe their roam clear wasn't going to be sufficient. But as soon as we saw those multiple kills come in and MIBR not be able to trade those kills out, that's when things started to fall for them.
It was a very quick decision from Team One as well. It was only seconds after they'd lost their main soft breacher in Neskin on the book that they were actually, yep, okay, let's just push the site. And it was as quick and it was as easy as that. We are experiencing a little bit of a tech pause at the moment. We do apologise for that. We've lost a couple of players out of the lobby and we're working to get them back in. But for the meantime, we've got a couple of rounds to go over. So I think that Team One have just done a great job there of making that split-second decision. And it shows that it's something that Lagonis was talking to us about when we got him on to have a little bit of a podcast, was that ability to just have that sixth sense of what your teammates are going to do and what they're actually capable of in that moment. And I think Lagonis and Levy pushing him from tellers, coupled with Alamau, who was kind of looking to try and push himself in, but he was more just looking to hold that flank, hold that rotation. It was beautiful, and it was exactly what Team One needed at the time, and I think it probably took MIBR off guard.
Well, I'm really interested here because while we wait for these players to return back into the lobby, you can see that it looks like they're going to be going down to the basement. Now, Ollie, I didn't get to see if there had been a Monty picked before they all disappeared. I'm going to assume there wasn't. That this was always historically that favorite site on this map. And I'm because it's been so long since this map has actually been in the map pool. It's basically been just under 2 years since this map has been in the map pool. We have so many new operators, so many new options that teams can bring to actually deal with these kind of old school sites. I'm very intrigued to see how that will have changed since the start of 2020.
There's not a lot that can replace a good old Monty. But I agree. I think there are other options that you can look to bring. You can really look to pressure the sort of vertical angles, and you can look to put a lot of pressure in onto the hatches. I think if the bans do remain the same, that there wasn't a Monty picked, but we do still have the 6th pick yet to go through, so there is a chance that we'll get all the way, and maybe somebody
That's
on the
true.
side of Team One will pick a Monty. But I, off the top of my head, I can't really recall a lot of Monty play, not only in general at the moment in the current meta and the matches that we've seen, but from Team One specifically.
Nah, it doesn't surprise me at all. I'm not actually expecting there to be a Monty. I'm just
You just
reminiscing.
want it. Yeah, you just like, it's that sort of nostalgic
I'm being
feeling.
nostalgic.
Yeah, rose-tinted glasses.
It's just like, you know, sometimes you just want to see a Monty dirt tunnel push on Clubhouse as well, even though people don't do them super frequently anymore.
That's all I ever want to see.
I know. And yet, when I actually play the game, you cannot get me to play shields. It's not happening.
No.
And I don't want to play against the shield either. But when I'm watching it, I love it. It's great fun. Regardless, the way that MIBR have their setup here, it seems to be a lot more of a... well, actually, because you guys can't actually see what operators have been selected. Currently, we have a Melusi, Valkyrie, Smoke, Echo, and Jaeger. To me, this seems like a nice balance between what we've just seen in the previous 2 rounds. You've got the Smoke and the Echo, so you can actually hold the fort down in the site itself. But, oh, here we go, producer Simon, he's got our backs. With Melusi, Valkyrie, and Jaeger, you can go and do the roam. So you can be upstairs in kitchen, you can be upstairs in open area, you can hold admin, you have not only the information that comes from the black eye cameras of the Valkyrie, but also because there are so many different routes into the basement, having the Melusi wubs is going to be incredibly important too. And that's one of those examples of something that wasn't available back when this map was previously in the map pool. You would have instead brought something like a Legion, used the dent into our technical pause before. The site that they were hovering over was the basement, but clearly didn't commit to it because they're not going there now. We're just going to go through our operator bans real quick before we head into the game. It's going to be Thatcher, Jackal, Kaid, and Mirror. No one knew because no one saw, remember? No, yeah, you guys will have. Anyway, so that's who we've got banned. So they are deciding that they're not going to be going down into the basement, which is something that we postulated that they might be looking to do in round number 3. Instead, they're staying back on the first floor.
I imagine that decision has been passed by a league admin, but...
Well, they didn't, because you can change the site before you go into the round, and we never went into the round. So they never committed to a site.
There was 2 seconds left on the time. I think it must have gone through an admin or something like that. But regardless, you know, the site choice is the site choice. Now, the fact that there's been at least an hour since this game was put on pause, obviously now that there's a chance for these teams to have, you know, made some sort of minor adjustments. And obviously with Team 1, they had a bit of a problem to solve. So you could say that there's maybe an advantage here to MIBR in that they didn't have any problem to solve in terms of power to be able to play. They could just focus on what they were going to do. So they're going back to the site that they lost inside of round number 2. They were able to take out the vertical pressure very early on. Neskin died to an early C4, but that didn't stop Team 1. They were able to execute onto the site, and they were able to get all of the kills. I doubt we're going to see that again. I imagine that Neskin's going to try and get himself above and make use of that skeleton key.
Yeah, most likely. I mean, the biggest criticism that I had of MIBR when they played this same site on round 2 was the fact that they just failed to get those trades, which did them so well back in round number 1. So that's what I'm going to be looking out for, just seeing how they respond to the kills that will inevitably come in from Team 1. Now, I like this. They're obviously being methodical with their droning, ensuring they find that utility that they have to get rid of. It's something that a lot of comments to make about in that game that we just saw between Ince and Santos. So far, going pretty slowly. Does Alamau know that... Ooh, I don't think he... No, he doesn't know, but he manages to get the lifeline off, open up. He's ready to take the opening kill onto Reduct.
Alamau really commands this desk. Found himself a kill, and he's not afraid to search and try and stay for another here. This was pretty much the same sort of position that he was playing in round number 2 previously, just holding that cross on into sight. Neskin, you've missed him there! Oh, the alibi nearly saved him. Neskin, realising he got the down there onto Lukid, is able to move through and finish off. Raps is now looking to try and get a bit more aggressive on this desk, but he's caught out on the drone as well, and he's going to get suppressed back into Tellers. Alamar getting himself in multiple engagements now as KDS is going to fall to Philippox. Toxic Babe going to cut off access, but Lagonis with the trade onto Raps. Going to be able to shut him down, was holding the angle from afar. Now Alamar looks to move on through. He's got to be careful because the soft wall to his right is open. That's going to give him a line of sight into main stairs and into open area. Now we're going to start to see the wall open, but there really isn't a lot of time available at all. 20 seconds for Fowls to try and hold on here. One Toxic Babe canister isn't going to do the business. He's going to get full white flashed. Obviously, the change to stuns. There is no way he was hiding between that one. But he's been able to sit in place. How has he stayed alive for so long? Finds himself too. Neskin in there with the trade, but Philippox takes down Levy. And it's now a 1 versus 1. Philippox, he's going to jump himself on down. Neskin has confirmed the plans, and he is going to be inside of Archives, but gets taken out straight away. Philippox, he's going to have plenty of time to disable that diffuser. Fouls. How has he been allowed to do that, Gio?
That was shocking. Because as you say, Ollie, ever since the flashes got the changes, you will guaranteed get full white flashed. It does not matter whether you look away. What will change is how long you are flashed for. But the fact that they sent in that flash said they knew that someone was behind there, or likely would be. And they still did not go through the process of at least checking that corner once they pushed into the site. The fact that Falls was able to get not 1 but 2 kills, force them to drop the diffuser, and then also, you know, have the other members of his team be able to follow up on those kills, that changed the momentum entirely for Team 1. And when you are left in a 1 versus 1 and your only remaining player is on 1 HP, it does not matter how good he is because he's gonna die. That was a huge oversight I think, from Team One in that round, and probably not a mistake they're going to make again.
Just peek your corners. It's a dire price to pay. You know, you're moving through from tellers into archives. It's a glance to the left. Obviously, a lack of information for Team One. You know, maybe a lack of communication. It's unsure. You know, it's uncertain. There were drones available. There weren't many, but there were some drones available. So there's a chance. They at least knew that there was a chance there was someone in the corner. A chance enough to throw the flashbang in, but not a chance enough to look and actually confirm. Bit of a strange play. And certainly, as you say, one that Team One won't want to try and recreate anytime soon. No. MIBR given a little bit of a lifeline there by Fouls. Really stepping himself up inside of that round and just proving sometimes if you're in the right place at the right time, all you need to do is find yourself a couple of kills, waste a little bit more time, and you can find some good successes. Now, downstairs into the basement we go. Slightly changed lineup here. Alamau no longer on the Zephyr. Instead, he's going to be playing the Nook. So usually, you'd put a Nook through Garage if you wanted to get that, you know, sort of undetected presence and somebody to try and cut the site in half in terms of a flank. But Alamau's actually gone in for an upstairs take.
Yeah, it is interesting that Team One have decided to make this change. Obviously, they're allowed to because this is not the round that they are opening up the remake of the game on. So they didn't have to commit to the same lineup that they were hovering over last time whatsoever. Now that's just been caught on drone as well. So Alamau should be able to not quite get a kill, but definitely push the player down. And they're going to be very aware of that presence. Now, Team One, knowing where you are is not something that you want. There, again, another drone. The Valkyrie's going to be coming back on up. It's a bit messy. Alamau takes a bunch of damage in the process, but finally, Philippox is down.
Alamau feels like he's not out of the woods yet as he pre-fires himself all the way up to the safety of that top floor. Pressure now coming in onto site as well as we see MIBR rapidly getting themselves out of there. You must have some information as you don't want to give that up entirely. Yokai drone's still in play. Philippox has likely got a couple of cameras out as well. Reduct, he's going to make a bit of an entrance, but instead gets chunked on down and chooses to go back the same way. How has he gotten away with that? The plant going down in the default location, just on the threshold from servers into site. Lagonis is going to get cut off by a Toxic Babe canister. Another one flies on in, and well, Files, you've only got one left for 35 seconds. You're not going to be able to deny all of that time. Something that MIBR do have, however, is going to be a C4 and Yokai drones. Now we're going to see Lagonis try and stick this plant. The Toxic Babe canister will come in and chunks him down. Very well timed. Now we're at the 20-second mark, and something really has to happen here. Team One need to get this plant down in order to extend the time. Neskin going to get himself into position now. They've juggled the diffuser between themselves just to get a little bit more HP out of things. Neskin gets put off by one of the Yokai drones. Two of the Yokai drones go off there. The C4 hits long. Alamau comes in from the bottom of main stairs, finds himself a couple of kills. The plant is successful, but it didn't even matter. KDS and Lagonis are going to find your final two. We did find the final Echo player inside of that garage, trying to do the best on the Yokai drones, but unable to deny the plant any further.
Look, I think it's great that Alamau could come in and get those 2 kills from main stairs, and they were really critical in achieving the round win. However, I still have to criticize the fact that Team One hadn't dealt with really important utility. If they knew that they wanted to go and plant in the default spot like they did, you know that you're going up against an Echo as well as a Smoke. And I think they probably... It's those two operators don't really have utility that can be cleared in the same way that other operators do. I suppose Echo, it's a little bit easier to do that these days than it always used to be, but the best thing that you generally can do is try and bait out some of that utility a little bit earlier in the round. And we already saw Lagonis try and go in for the plant, not once but twice, fail to do so because the Toxic Babe canisters and then the Yokai drones were getting to him. Switch hands with Neskin because Neskin still had full HP and he was the most likely to survive survive it, but it really took so much of their available time, and you pretty much had to rely on Alamau coming in and getting those kills, because you would not have had the time to be able to protect yourself if the defenders swarmed in physically themselves anyway. So, cool, it was a win for Team 1, but I think it could have been done a lot neater.
Not one that you can rely on going your way every single time. And again, I think a question remains as to why nobody from the side of Team 1 pushed in through Garage. You know, you think about Nook and you think about Garage, it's a match made in heaven almost, and if you can get that entry in and you can get droned and covered through, no longer can the Echo player sit inside a Garage for free, you know. And I mean, Garage has always been a player where an Echo or a Maestro would try. Garage has always been a place, sorry, where an Echo or a Maestro would play and, you know, try and have impact onto the round. You think back to when Maestro cameras were so powerful. It's exactly the same thing. So, bit of a misplay, maybe from Team 1. Could have been a little bit smoother. But we move on to that top floor. Alamau still on the Nook. This time looking to make his way up these main stairs. I'm saying, Alamau is obsessed with getting himself in through cash machines and obsessed with those main stairs. This time it's going to work for him. Picks one up onto Lukin. Now his location is known. It is just going to be an out-and-out frag fest for him. Finds one onto Raps before being shut down. Deals a hefty sum of damage to MIBR there. Removes not only the smoke, but the Echo as well.
Alamau knew that he didn't even need to bother with the nade because he could get the angle onto the player behind the shield on the conference table. Now, MIBR, they're getting droned out a little bit. We did just see that happen in the site itself, and they're going to be a lot more heavily pressured here. The fact that Team 1 have been able, like, it doesn't matter that Alamau is dead at this point. He's done his job. Team 1 pretty much have their channel in, and they are outnumbering MIBR as well. Now, maybe it's a problem that those shields haven't been cleared a little bit later on in the round because MIBR can still use them to their advantage. But in terms of getting that opening, they just weren't necessary.
Levy's already getting the plant down. Excuse me? Actually got himself into the site, planting right by the bomb chassis. Confirms it as well before being down. Neskin, he's on the cover in fire. He takes down Felipox. Redux, he's caught out inside a connector. Needs to try and make a play and move himself on through fouls. Making that challenge over onto Neskin, but is going to lose. Neskin on 1 HP. Redux flies himself out the window. Please land your shots. Land them, he does. But eventually is removed by Lagonis. 2 players on the windows there. Everybody having a little bit of trouble collecting that final kill. A desperate attempt from MIBR at the end of that round, and Team 1 really taking full advantage of that early man count that they were able to get.
And I mean, even just like Redux positioning, for example, at the end, it was such a difficult place to be because you could tell he wanted to try and move forward into CEO to be able to get the angle that he needed. But because Team 1 were holding on to those windows, it's very hard to move down that wall of this map because there are so many windows. And all you need to do is be just 1 pixel further than you would like to be to get down. That's why he had to change his priority to actually leaping out of the windows, seeing if he could get a kill. He just wasn't ready for the fact that Lagonis was on the other side. So that was very well set up there by Team 1. Even though there was quite a hefty gap of time between when Alamau got those openings and when they made their main bulk of engagement, they just had themselves set up around that site so well. And for Levy to be able to get into the site for free without MIBR either noticing or stopping them, that was huge.
I was a little bit worried, honestly, when we saw the couple of kills come in from Alamau. I was like, great, this is, it's a good start for Team 1. Maybe they're going to be able to, steamroll this round. And then everything just sort of stagnated a little bit. And I was like, it's essentially just a 4 versus 3 now. Like, something needs to give. There's still a good chance here for MIBR. But, I mean, I think it happened off screen for us. The plan just immediately seemed to be viable, and that was the best option. And I guess Team 1 have put in a lot of work to get those flanks and to really cover those angles off. So, congratulations for Team 1 taking advantage of that early man count. Who would have thought it possible? Now, I don't think that Alamau is realistically going to be able to continue to get himself in on the Nook and provide that much damage early on. It can't be something that MIBR let happen time and time again, but it is something that is now going to be in the back of their minds at least, and something that they've got to try and keep a bit of a keener eye out for. Now, we are going to see alamau playing Nook again in this round, but I doubt it's going to have the same effect.
I mean, you never know. He's already lost both of his drones, so if he is going to be going in on this entry, he's going to have to be relying on the drones of his teammates to be guiding him in. I'm interested to see... Oh, what? Okay. ADS, he's going to be able to provide some information over. I'm interested to see if he ends up using his nades, because as I noted in that last round, he didn't even bother trying to get rid of the shield that was holding off one of his opponents. He just went straight in for the kill. Neskin is, however, going to be the first one to go down. Lukid catching him. So already Team 1 at the man disadvantage. Maybe this is what MIBR need. There you go. alamau didn't get the value that he did in previous rounds. You were right, Ollie.
You just get the feeling that MIBR aren't that team to get fooled twice, and this time they've been able to get 2 of the opening kills. And Team 1 looking severely diminished, especially with one of them being a hard breach, the other being a main fragger. Luke, you've got no business swinging onto Lagonis and taking him out like that. Eventually, Team 1 are going to find an answer. Levy swings through, takes down Lukid. It's 4 versus 2 in favour of MIBR. This Tellers and Archive site has been, this open area site this time, it's always been very heavily contested inside of that area, and without sufficient upstairs control, it's going to be very difficult here for anything really to happen. Raps, he's looking to make a rotation. Levy is inside of Tellers right now, gives the game away, and eventually will be taken out. Reduct, he's able to sneak through, uses the rotation, gets himself into Tellers, and MIBR fight back.
So a 3-3 at the half leaves us no closer to knowing who the hell is going to be able to take this. And I think one of the things that you said in that round, Ollie, was quite apt, and that is MIBR are not really the sort of team to be fooled twice. So even though Team 1 have had some really quite impressive rounds and the way they've set themselves up has been really good, if they try to repeat that, whatever that may be, MIBR will read into that. They're not really going to be left to just, fall for the same stuff every time. Which means Team 1 are going to have more pressure to change the way that they are playing as time goes on. Now they're on the defense, we'll see how necessary that really is. Now, it's funny because when we first came into Bank a little bit earlier, before all the technical stuff, and you and I were talking about these old Bank strategies, producer Simon said to us, oh, you used to get Castle everywhere. And Levy, he's standing up to that. He's bringing it along. We're even getting some Bandit as well. I'd say that's a little bit old school. So Team 1 really leading into the traditional here for their first defense.
It's the retro Bank lineup, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, other than Wamai.
Other than Wamai, obviously, yeah. But I guess, when Cade's banned, needs must. You've got to come up with something.
You got to do what you can do.
The Bandit battery is going to be very successful on the Kanto wall that Philippox is just about to get himself onto. This is the only window on that side that still has a glass panel in the semicircle arch at the top. And that's so that you can open up a very long line of sight. It's something that we consistently saw Team 1 attempting to do. MIBR are going to try and do it here, but the Bandit battery is going to stop them from being able to at least open both sides, depending on how the utility has been spread. The Bandit batteries that are going to be on the sort of main CEO walls, they're a little bit easier to remove from the roof. But as it stands, Redux, he's going to be slow walking himself up those main stairs. Drone working ahead, kind of gives the game away a little bit, but has he got some information? Well, it seems as though he's not got enough information. Gets himself downed. Not sure if anybody knows that he is going to be downed. Another near withstand moment. We're going to see one stage, y'all. I'm almost sure of it. This time it didn't work out. alamau, he shuts down Reduct.
In all honesty, I'm not entirely convinced that if we do see one of those moments, it's going to work against alamau.
Possibly not.
alamau knew that he was down there. He was roaming down in the basement. Lukid's the next one to get a kill. However, that's going to be on to Levy. So that was that castle, but the castle barricades are obviously going to remain. And Eskin's just trying to hold on here to that main stairs area, and you can see the work that Lagonis is doing. He's actually used all of his Toxic Babe canisters already, and we are barely over the halfway point into this round. Now, you can see on that Canto wall, which is the wall up in your top right by the elevator, they have already breached onto that, so there is that line of sight that can be held from there. That makes it very dangerous for players like Neskin and Lagonis to actually step out from the positions that they're currently in.
MIBR are adopting a bit of a Team 1 strategy here and just stacking up those spiral stairs. They finally made their bid for freedom and they've got themselves into banana wraps. You know, there's going to be at least one player moving on through. Gets the chance at Alamau, but Alamau dips himself off. Filipok's next player to fall. KDS finds one onto Lukid, and the kills start to fly. 25 seconds left. Alamau, he started off the round strong, and it looks as though he's going to finish the round even stronger. With fouls as the last remaining player, Alamau picks up the final 2, making it 3 on the round. Team 1, pretty unstoppable on that top floor.
It seems like one of those classic cases of MIBR were aware of where there were these threats elsewhere on the map, you know, because Alamau already got a kill down in the basement. They knew that he was out and about and he was on that roam. But because the map is so big and they had decided what it was they were focusing on and where they were going to make their entry into the site, they kind of didn't have the resources to offer up to that part of the map. The player who they'd already sent down there to be dealing with that and making that clear had died. And you can't keep pumping your players and your resources down into other parts of the map when you need everybody to be working together to actually get onto the site. It is one of the biggest issues that people have when it comes to these huge maps, because if one pillar of your push falls, it's very, very hard to actually pick that back up and make up for it. So I think it's sort of an example of that. There's no way MIBR didn't know that Alamau was elsewhere and that he could have come from whatever angle it may be. They simply just didn't have anything to do about it because they had to focus on their push themselves.
I might be a little bit old-fashioned, Gio, but I'd like to see just a good old CEO take. In through square stairs, open up the wall,
yeah,
and just make... I'm not into the whole, you know, push through the main lobby.
Like, have someone hold stock.
Yeah, you know, something that's a little bit more...
ranked.
A little bit more ranked, a little bit more old-fashioned. But it seems to work better than just flooding up main.
I'm not super into the... I understand why people, you know, go up main. You need to have that area, because even if you were to try and push through square and stock, and if there's someone holding janitor, if there's someone holding main, they can come and they don't have any deterrent when they're trying to push you or punish you, and then you have no way of actually entering into the site. But I agree that it hasn't been the most fortuitous plan from what we've seen in this game anyway. And I think it's fair to say that there hasn't been enough bank yet this stage to really get a strong idea of what strategy teams are going to settle on. But I agree, so far, it's not been the most fruitful.
Well, maybe we get to see another defense upstairs later on in this game. And maybe tear our hair out at that one as well. But for now, we're moving on through. MIBR looking to take control of this top floor. Still, it's like herding cats trying to get a handle as to where Team 1 are playing. They've got a lot of information available for themselves as well. KDS is going to be playing just off the top of main stairs. Janitor being occupied as well. Alamau below, C4 in hand. Reduct first to find blood. Takes Neskin down for Leapox with a great time on his push into Tellers. He's going to take down Alamau. 2 kills, Flood in MIBR's favour. Seemingly with no response here. And Team 1 look a little bit concerned. They need to start plugging the gaps that those 2 players have left behind.
Well, again, a lot of these players getting juiced up. It's not quite the right situation to have that withstand reflex that you're looking for, Ollie. Levy feeling some pressure, but his opponent is going to be scurrying away. It's actually KDS to receive a ton of damage, leading to his death. Lukid, the guy who killed him, also took a bunch of damage, but he manages to get another kill on top as well. Felipox finishing things off, and MIBR, they get a perfect round for this one.
MIBR just seemed to know everything. It's like they looked into the crystal ball before that round started and was just like, yep, we know everything, let's go. We know exactly where Team 1 are going to be here. They just had every angle covered. It seemed as though every single player that died on the side of Team 1 was just immediately faced with an MIBR gun as soon as they peeked whatever corner it was that they were hiding behind. A very unsuccessful round indeed, and I think something that Team 1 needs to be fairly mindful of here is that MIBR are actually looking quite good here on the attack. Maybe, dare I say it, are they looking better than only picking up 3 rounds? It was a 3-3 split in the first stage of this map. With the way that MIBR have been conducting themselves so far, it looks as though they may have a little bit more here. Team 1 avoiding that basement like the plague, Gio.
Dude, I feel like it's just sad. It's just upsetting.
It is.
It's like, you know, you're finally reunited with your ex and they don't want to see you anymore. Do you know what I mean? That's what it is. Everybody loves basement, dude. You gotta give the people what they want.
But now the basement's a lot easier to get into, so it's just not as...
I know.
Maybe there's just not the challenge there anymore.
I get it. Yeah, with the ability to get into those hatches, open up those hatches is so much easier. And I think that's going to be, you know, while a Kaid is banned, that's not going to change because there's no real feasible alternative for sufficient denial. Again, we spoke about it earlier on, but like, let's assume that we had these operator lineups that we're seeing for this side. So you got to take it with a pinch of salt. KDS, the only guy who has impacts. Do you think 2 impacts are going to work against Hibana's million pellets? No. So without a Kaid, really, it's just not viable. So alas, as much as we want to see basement, the likelihood that we go there much is not going to be very high, I don't think.
No, and I'm struggling to think if any of the changes have actually resulted in any of those hatches being able to be impacted anyway. I think a lot of them are around hard floors, so it'd be pretty difficult to try and work that through. You'd have to couple it with a very extended hold, and in that instance, you maybe want the hatches open so that you can drop back a little bit quicker anyway. So, again, no major surprise that we're not seeing the basement with the lineup that we have. Cade being banned is, of course, the big one. But still, opportunity to thoroughly explore other sites, and that's really what Team 1 are doing at the moment. Lagonis is going to be holding a nice vertical angle. He's got a really good read onto anybody that decides to push on through. Just waiting patiently.
Though he's actually pinging the floor. He's pinging the floor that he's on. He's not actually pinging down there.
Yeah, it's probably not big enough to actually get the ping through, but he's obviously got the information that the push has actually tried to happen as Lukid, Redux, they're going to start picking up some kills. Fowls is getting the plant down in another lightning fast round here on Archive and Tellers. Lagonis, he's only just there. Please land your shots. Eventually is able to grab the down onto Redux. But is it going to be enough? There's a big retake on the cards here, and it looks as though Team 1 are starved for information. Lukid, what a game he has had so far, and continues to have. Felipox finds one onto Neskin, wraps the second. A good team effort there from MIBR, collecting a kill each as the final 3 members of Team 1 fall. Another quick plant and execute on the Archive Tellers site.
I have to say, as much as that was a really good round from MIBR, I love the fact that Reduct was finished off with an SMG-11. Because it was just kind of rubbing salt into the wound because he was playing Sledge.
Yeah, poetic.
You know? Yeah, exactly. It's like, you don't have this anymore. But regardless, very good round for MIBR other than that. And yeah, the speed with which they actually made it in, they used smokes pretty well to conceal the plant. You know, I'd say smoke plants, I don't know. It felt like they were all the rage last stage. But either way, they pulled off a very successful one. Now we're returning up to CEO. I want to see the traditional CEO push now, Ollie. Now that we spoke about it a little bit earlier on,
It needs to happen.
That's all I want. It is all I want. Ooh, look at this. We're not in the extended HUD.
Something that I was I was thinking about after we discussed the different take, and that we'd both like to see the square stairs and into the CEO. Maybe, just maybe, one of the reasons why we're seeing the spiral stairs be a little bit more preferred is because of the lack of ability to sit on the garage and hold those long lines of sight through. You still need a presence over on that side. And because you're now no longer able to do it from a million bazillion miles away, you've got to get boots on the ground. You've got to get somebody in there to do the job. And maybe that plays into it a little bit. Now, there are other areas that you can try and, get on the rappel, mainly this north side. But even some of those have been obstructed as well with sort of new window panes going in there. I mean, it looks like a fairly dangerous place to be, I'll be honest with you. Levy takes off Philippe Fox's head there. Oh, at some point we've got to have a chat about this, oNe. It is just too good.
It has been popular for quite some time now. I remember when people first started talking about, wanting to pick the oNe over the Commando, and that was quite a while ago. And then obviously you have a Rooney come in, and she's also got the same weapon, and it's sort of just been allowed to exist and continue on in its greatness, and that doesn't seem to have changed much. You would be very hard pushed, I think, these days to find a game where the oNe is not being played by someone.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. 1.5 times is just ridiculous on that. There's no two ways about it. The site that Levy is using right now, the whole combination just should be illegal. It's laughable to think it used to be a discussion whether you should run the oNe or the Commando, because now you don't even remember that Mozzie's got the Commando.
But here's my argument, just before, things start getting really heated in this game. The Commando has a cool reload animation.
It does. It's very flashy. I would have liked to have been the guy that they mapped that off. They're like, oh, can you show us a flashy reload with this gun? He's like, yeah, no problem. Like, flicks it out, whacks a new magazine in.
I'd love to be able to do that. Black Eye just gotten rid of as well, which is nice, because there's a conversation that we had a little bit early on, is the fact that Valkyrie has been allowed through into this game is horrendously valuable for whomever is on the defense. So removing some of that utility, pretty big. Look at this. They've opened up into CEO. Those walls are nice and open, but Redux going to get some oncoming fire. Beautiful headshot, though, to get himself into the site, and he can get going on the plant.
It's a wonder. CEO take almost works out there, but 2 kills come in just at the right time. Lukid is left. 40 seconds on the rappel. 3 players to find. Gets himself into the best position possible in case anybody jumps out. There are no windows behind him there, so he had a good chance at taking anybody out if they chose to do so. And he is going to be on the Finker. Stims himself up. Will take increased damage from the Toxic Babe canisters, of which there are 3 remaining, but gets the benefit of a little bit lessened recoil, which it seems as though he needs. Missing shots on the first 2 opponents that present themselves to him. Now doesn't realise that the player is actually rotated up to the top of the stairs. Does get the red ping, but is getting peeked from just about every conceivable angle. The time will run to 0, and what could have been around for MIBR goes over to Team 1 off the back of a beautiful C4 from below.
Well, I mean, I have to be honest, that wasn't even the only C4 kill that was made in that round. So to me, what that telegraphs is that MIBR just had a really insufficient downstairs clear. I didn't see them really pay a ton of attention to anything that was going on downstairs. They just focused on the upstairs, which, for most of these CEO pushes, that is where a lot of your attention goes. And once again, they lost a player very early on in the round, and it comes back around to that argument that it's such a huge map, and as soon as you've lost one player, you don't have the resources to allocate to every single place that they need to be. So the fact that there were 2 C4 kills just meant Team 1 had total control of what was going on downstairs, down below the site. I'm hoping that for MIBR, that's something that they don't ignore going forward if that is a site that gets revisited. Although we will have to go into overtime for that to even be an option. Because had they gotten rid of even just one of the 2 players who got a C4 kill, they probably would have had a much easier time.
I think it didn't help that MIBR approached that round a man down. It was something that they maybe could have pulled something off there, but there was always going to be a hole somewhere in the plan. But let's see what they're able to do this time. They're going to be in open area. Again, a site that has been made much more viable due to the removal of the hatch that used to be just outside of start, pretty much exactly where KDS is running right now. There used to be a hatch there that landed you in the middle of the site. Now that is no longer a thing. So a little bit of a increase to the defenders in that side. They're not able to be peeked out so quickly. And as we've seen so far, the middle floor sites have been very popular today. We haven't actually seen Team 1 go to the basement at all now, and I doubt that we will. Their intention is not going to be there at all. Even if they win here, they're going to be able to go back into tellers and archives, although they have been flushed out there a couple of times with some very quick plays by MIBR, so maybe something to consider. But at least for the meantime, open area is going to be the main site for this round.
We'll see how this one fares. If I remember correctly, when they played this site before, Levy went down extremely quickly. Might not have been right at the beginning. I just remember he was one of the earlier deaths. Again, that finger boost from MIBR. So far, no one seems to have come into contact with each other whatsoever. Oh, as I say that, there we go. Levy, first one to fall once again.
Levy's having a bit of a mare this game, 2-7. Obviously, we did join at round 3, so there's a couple of rounds that we haven't actually got kill record for on the scoreboard at the moment, but we've certainly seen more than the majority now, and I think Levy, especially considering some of the performances he's put in previous weeks, maybe some people are expecting him to pop off a little bit more here and now today. But his team are doing a good job of filling that gap. Alamau, 10-7. Currently playing behind Teller's desk. I don't think that anybody knows where he is at the moment. And he's a dangerous player to not have a handle on. Especially when he's playing Valkyrie. Especially when he's got a C4 available.
Oh, he was playing the Valkyrie when he was downstairs on that roam just a few rounds ago. And then MIBR didn't track where he was. Alamau not going to be successful with the C4 this time, unlike the previous round, and that will definitely have given his location away if it wasn't already known before. So he's going to be watching out. That's why he opened up that bullet hole, because he's got to be extra careful to know when someone comes in through that door, if they do.
Fleapox may be getting himself in a position where he could be threatening onto Alamau, but honestly, MIBR haven't got the time to be chasing shadows here. KDS going to shut down, read up the smoke canister. Does get tossed in, but it is maybe going to be pointless as the rounds tick on by. And 1 second left on the clock. 3 versus 2. The plant will be confirmed. By the skin of his teeth, Fowles actually manages to get that one down. And now it's looking as though MIBR could clean up shop here. They do find those final 2 kills. Really down to the wire stuff.
And now we're on match point, but because it hasn't been too momentous one way or the other for these two teams, Team 1 could very easily take this into overtime, I think, Ollie. I would absolutely believe that that is going to happen. Maybe it won't. Looks like they're going to be going down into the basement, though. So they've actually changed their tune. They've decided that this is going to be where they want to go. This is a big risk, and actually what is arguably a bigger risk to me, because I can see that they seem to be leaning into this idea of bringing along roamers. They've got the Vigil, they've got the Mozzie, they've got the Valkyrie, and Mute, who you can play off-site as well. They only have Echo for your denial, for your plant denial, and to be your anchor. When it was MIBR who were on the defense, they had a smoke and an Echo, and that is what was so pivotal in holding Team 1 back, who, if you remember correctly, still managed to get their plant down eventually, and then it was Alamau to get 2 kills that landed them the actual round overall. But the amount of time that cut off of their option was horrendous. With just one of those operators, though, I fear that that's going to be a much different story for Team 1 than it was for MIBR when they were the ones defending.
Match point here for MIBR. Chance for them to get this game over the line here. So far, they've attacked very well. I made a comment a couple of rounds ago saying that they were looking a better than 3-3 split attack team so far. And Well, that could prove to be true inside of this round. Luke is actually going to make his entry in through the basement. Do have Agonis playing in down there. It's almost a bit of a last-ditch attempt here from Team 1. They don't want to go back upstairs into Tellers and Archives. So they have risked the basement for the potential final round. Not somewhere that we've seen them defend yet so far. But MIBR have every tool that they could possibly need to try and open this site wide open. They've got Vals on those exothermic charges on the Thermite. They've also got full epochs playing on the Hibana. The ability to open every single hatch. It's going to make holding areas like Blue Stairs very difficult, if not near impossible. So much so that Team 1 haven't actually opted to reinforce some of these hatches. And they've given themselves options for later rotates. It's again something that we've discussed. Maybe a potential idea is to extend the roam a little bit and actually say, you know what, if you're going to take the hatches, take them. We're going to use them to rotate back down later. It's a good job that those hatches have remained soft or opened, as full epochs will be the first to fall, but not before he takes down KDS.
I mean, I suppose you kind of would hope that KDS was the first to go down anyway, just because Vigil is a very deep roamer. You want him to be the one who is meeting these engagements first. He's kind of done his job and pass on the information to everyone else. You can see that he's looking at the black eye cams that are out and about, so he's still playing a very active role. In go the smokes, in the hopes, I suppose, that MIBR can actually move into the site and get going with the plants. Something that they've been very successful in is these fast plants. Falls, I think he's droning right now. Or either that or he's just, like, you know, lying prone for funsies. But I suspect he's droning Lucid.
Lucid's got a lot of people droning for him at the moment. He's laser focused on keeping a hold of that crossfire. Doesn't want anybody to be able to transition between the sites there. But still, with Alamau playing above, there's a lot of danger here in the way that MIBR are approaching this. Reduct needs to make a move, and he needs to make it quickly. Fowls is going to start to get that plant down, but will be put off at the last second. Alamau swoops on through, takes him down, and with nobody inside of servers, actually gets away for free. Now he can keep an eye on the diffuser, and this round is falling apart here for MIBR. Reduct comes in, but could be too little too late. Collects the diffuser, he too gets down, and now it's all down to Raps. He's got himself into the Hornet's nest there, but he doesn't have the diffuser to do anything with to extend that time. We're going to overtime.
I said it was possible. I said it could happen. Did I not say it could happen, Ollie? And am I not so intelligent? I'm so smart. Yeah.
Well, we just look silly now because defenders have won downstairs.
You were the one who was like, well, no, I suppose I did join in. I suppose I did.
We knew it was possible, though. We said that there were, just because there's an advantage, not an advantage, just because it's easier than it could be for the attackers to attack down there, doesn't mean that it's going to go in their favor.
Yeah, and I think also it was probably a very smart idea for the fact that Team 1, they didn't bother reinforcing a lot of those hatches. And yeah, partly it was so that they had rotates open for themselves, but also if the hatches can be opened really easily anyway, you might as well just use the reinforcements for something more valuable elsewhere. But again, you know, because these teams really want to be coming in through server, and we're not seeing tons of pressure be applied elsewhere in terms of making a push at the same time. You know, there are many maps on many sites, many sites on many maps where you would send a push in from two directions at once. Whereas with basement, what we're seeing is some pressure be dealt over here, and then we move over to actually working on the site. And what that can mean is that if there are enough defenders still standing, you have a very small space that you need to apply your attention to in order to try and deny that plant. And that is something that we have seen be done in both the times that we've actually seen this site be played, and Team 1 did it very well. Even though Alamau ended up dying, Reduct had such little time left that the defenders elsewhere could deal with him very swiftly. So, I mean, just even though the whole Hibana thing is a perfectly valid point, it seems that attackers are still kind of funneling themselves in a way that defenders can actually deal with relatively easily.
Fleapok's going to be on the rappel, attempting to get that long line of sight open once again. MIBR starting off on the attack here. I don't think that that's going to be the end of the world for them. Been relatively successful so far. Certainly a lot of the rounds have looked to come a lot easier to them than the rounds that Team 1 were able to pull out on the attack. Team 1 regularly relying on Alamau to go big and to get that important and crucial entry. Whereas sometimes a little bit more of a team effort on the side of MIBR, and usually a round that comes down to an execute more than anything else. But they are going to be going for this west side clear. They've got a bit of presence on the rappel. Sounds like they've been able to open up that long line of sight. You can see there that they're going to have access to the top of elevators, the top of main stairs. It's a very commanding position to be playing on the rappel.
Just so disappointing. We're not seeing the CEO push that we want to be seeing.
It's going to be another day, isn't it?
I know. We're just going to have to wait forever. Pretty open once again. Smoke's going to be thrown in. No, it's not really touching Levy for now. He's just holding on. Raps going in for the peak. There are 3 players, my dude. You're going up against all on your own. That was a bit of a risk. Valuable kill there, though, onto Alamau from Fall. So at least there's that, and they even things out as far as the man count goes. But Team 1 are holding very strongly here onto this main stairs area.
Well, maybe we're going to see that CEO push come through as Fleapox has got himself certainly into position. He's actually been greeted with the wall already part opened. I don't think that he was anticipating that. Foul's rotating underneath as well. Lukid on repel. It could have been a big bait and switch all along, but with only 11 seconds left, something's going to have to happen here. Lukid, he gets himself involved inside of the site, but look at all the kills coming through, lighting up that scoreboard. The diffuser cold on the ground, an impactless kill for Lukid. Team 1, they go to overtime match point.
Wouldn't this be frustrating if you're MIBR and Team 1, now they've just flipped the script in the space of 2 rounds, taking your match point from you, giving it to themselves, and now what MIBR, they're going to be on the defense, which is what they started off on. It was a 3-3 split, like both halves were, so we can't even look at that and say decisively that MIBR had a better defensive or a better attacking half. There were a couple of things, you know, like the comments that I made about their operator selections, where I had a bit of a preference for the way that MIBR were running them, but because we're going to open area here, that whole argument about whether to bring 1 or 2 anchors, for example, isn't really relevant. So, you know, MIBR only played on open area once as well. We only have 1 round to go by. That was round number 6. And they won it. So maybe, I guess, the hope is that Team 1 will, A, know a little bit less about the way that MIBR like to defend that side, and B, just be less prepared for it, less good at it.
Unsure. I think this game really hangs in a balance of whose team's mental is stronger at this moment in time. It really has been a bit of a war. It's never an easy one when there's a significant break in the game as well. You know, it's not often that you get an hour tech pause where we actually have enough time to play another scheduled game before that and just rejig the schedule a little bit. So I think it's probably been quite a difficult game mentally to prepare for as well, given that you're going to want to have a scrim and all that sort of stuff before you jump on into the server. So for both of these teams, it's been a bit of a tough one. And well, we're still no clearer. You know, MIBR, they don't sit on the match point right now. They are 1 round behind. They have sat on the match point previously, but then again, they're on the defense here. Now, we've not seen a defender-sided bank, but Team 1 really relied on Alamau to clutch up. And this time, Alamau's playing on the Zafir. It doesn't mean that he's not going to do that, but he's not the crouch-walking nook that he was a handful of rounds ago.
I'm a bit disappointed to not be seeing the Nook, to be honest. But I suppose, yeah, it started to get read into. Good droning here. I mean, oh, the ball's not even spotted? I guess not. I guess that drone's just going to be left there. It's going to be nice for providing some information when they need it later, assuming that it doesn't get spotted. So far, only Lukid has received a bit of damage, though, but Alamau's not looking too afraid to be peeking. We spoke earlier about how he's kind of the master of the Teller's Archives area. He's being a bit more careful here. So that should be Felipox to get that opening kill.
Honestly, Alamau works on that desk with the amount of time that he actually spends there.
Mate, he loves it.
He's got a ping as to where Felipox is playing right now. Felipox maybe just giving himself away there, but instead we'll find the kill onto Lagonis. So this two-pronged attack that Team 1 have very consistently been able to get off when attacking this site isn't working exactly as planned. That's the diffuser cold. Neskin, he's now going to push his way through. Has got a bit of a difficulty getting into tellers due to the rotation that's going to give access into desk and further into open area. So it's going to be down to Alamau to shoot his way through. The LMG providing the cover and fire to do so. Wants to try and recover the diffuser now, but knows that there's just going to be a million different angles that he needs to try and consider here before doing so. With the diffuser being cold, it was likely being watched to some degree. Now, surprisingly, he's been able to pick it up pretty much for free, but Neskin is still seeing trouble in the site. Raps finds one onto Levy, and now it's all down to Neskin and Alamau. Make that just Neskin. As Lukid, he's going to find another one over onto Alamau. Neskin really in the fighting position. He's got 3 C4s to go up against 20 seconds to try and make this happen in. Picks the first, but can't find the second. Lukid, what a series he's had so far. Keeps his team in it, and we're going to go to maximum overtime.
Yeah, Ollie, I mean, we are in the BR6. Would it be the BR6 if we didn't go to max OT?
Of course it wouldn't.
Yeah, exactly.
We love a bit of max OT, especially last Sunday.
Oh, yeah, you had quite, what was it, 3? 3 out of the 4 games that you had that day. And then what was it? The other one, was it a 7-0?
Yeah, it was like opposite ends of
Yeah, there we go.
the scale.
7-0 FaZe Black Dragons. Everything else was an 8-7. Wow. All right. Oh, this is interesting. Okay, so Team 1 have now decided that they're also going to defend open area, much like MIBR just did. Now, this was a site that Team 1 actually played. So they didn't win either of them. So that's a good sign.
A good sign for whom?
Not Team 1. Also, I mean, MIBR have made some changes here. The fact that they've brought the Capitão is interesting, and I'm curious as to whether or not they're expecting open area to be the site, because Capitão is very good at flushing out small spaces, and the funny thing about open area is it's a very open area, so not really the smallest of spaces.
Keep going. I'm enjoying this.
Yeah. I'm just curious. I'm curious as to whether or not this was their expectation. I suspect it was not, especially given that fact that MIBR won both of their attacks onto open area.
Maybe it's going to have use in terms of flushing players. Smokes have been fairly popular as well from MIBR so far. So they could be looking to try and get away with another smoke plant. And obviously the arrows are going to give them just that little bit of something extra if they do need to try and force a player out of a position. It's not even like Redux gone for the LMG, so maybe debated on the site as you suspect. We'll see where the utility gets deployed. I'm sure that all will become apparent and Redux will make it look like it was all part of the master plan all along. But with the default camera still up, it does beg a little bit of a question. Thank you. He's removed it, but he's still known.
This is a nice little droney angle. You can see straight into Neskin. And he has absolutely no idea either. And given that Raps is trying to take shots at him, that information can just continue to be passed on. And these players from MIBR are going to end up being the ones to fall, though.
A lot of damage caused in the opening engagement. You've lost soft destruction, you've lost nades, you've lost information. Team 1 poised, ready to pounce and ready to take this game. Of course, this is the last round that we will see here. MIBR fight back. Fleebox and Redux, they pick off one apiece. Redux has made his way on into sight. No utility required just yet, but now is where we might see it come through. He can now start to smoke off locations. Saves the fire arrows for a rainy day, but gets caught out by Levy on the rotation. Levy's going to be able to find himself too. We commented he's had a quiet game up to now, and he's saved the best till last. Stepping things up when it really matters in this last round. Default camera's still up. Fouls he's going to be given away there. Needs to be careful he doesn't drop the hatch, which he will do.
Oh, no.
45 seconds left. There's still enough time for him to rotate, but everybody knows where he is right now. He's going to get double peak. Takes the first, but can't grab the second. Levy finishes strong here, and that is going to be all she wrote. Team 1, they're going to come out on top here on Bank.
Could have ended up going to MIBR, and it could have done it in regulation as well, but Team 1 crudely snatched it away from them. And as the writing on the screen came up there, it said, you know, hard fought victory. That definitely was hard fought, because it wasn't even like either of these sides were dominant towards